Welcome back to our continuing series where we talk more about thyroid metabolism and all the different issues that can go wrong that can keep you from overcoming your chronic thyroid condition. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Taggart with the Kirkland Thyroid Institute, where we specialize in a comprehensive approach and correction of chronic thyroid issues that typically have not responded to traditional medical care. Today we're going to be talking about our number 5 secret to helping you get better from your chronic thyroid condition. We're going to talk about the adrenal gland today. The adrenal gland is a small gland that sits on the back of the kidney. It's very important for your energy level and has a strong influence on blood sugar and also your thyroid gland. Your adrenal gland makes several hormones. The two most important that we'll be talking about today are cortisol and DHEA. DHEA, you may have heard of this, is something that your body will convert it into estrogen and testosterone. Now, most of the patients who have thyroid issues are women, but as a woman you do produce testosterone, and if you have any trouble with low or high testosterone, it can cause a lot of problems. So we're going to talk more topic today about cortisol. Now, cortisol is a stress hormone that your body produces in response to the normal stresses of life. And you have a lot of stress in your life, it's going to produce more cortisol. And cortisol is something that helps you deal with stress. But if your stress stays prolonged, either through emotional or physical stress, your cortisol is going to raise up too much and it's going to cause health issues. Now, to test adrenal gland function, the most accurate way to do that is through what's called a salivary test. There's a company that we use called Diagnostics, and we use what's called the ASI test. And it is a salivary-based test, and the reason that we use that is because if you check adrenal function in blood, those hormones are bound to protein, they're inactive. So we want to check the active hormones to see how much hormones you have that are actually going to do something. So this is really the most accurate way to test that. So if you haven't had that test, you might want to look into that because it may find out why you have a thyroid problem and why you're fatigued. So I've got actually a copy of a test that I want to show you, and we'll talk about what a normal and what an abnormal graph would look like. So this is a graph of an actual patient who we tested, who had both adrenal and thyroid problems. And what you can see here in these dark lines here, this is the normal curve of cortisol production. So cortisol production goes in kind of a rhythm. So as you wake up in the morning, the cortisol level should be in a higher range because you need energy, you need to become awake, you need to get on with your day. So that hormones are going to be elevated, but again, within the proper range. And then as the day goes on, your cortisol level is going to kind of come down, and then when you get to the point where it's nighttime, your cortisol level should be low because cortisol is a stimulatory hormone. So imagine if you're getting all this stimulus from high cortisol, you won't be able to sleep well. So if you have insomnia, this is definitely something you want to get checked. So here again is the normal graph, and this is the normal pattern that we've talked about. Now here is the patient's graph. So in the morning, this patient had low cortisol. So this patient would be tired, she'd have a hard time getting going. Now then she gets to kind of midday and it kind of does a little bit better. And then as the day goes on, you see how this is moving up, and she's getting to the point at night where her cortisol levels are quite high. And this patient didn't sleep well because there's so much stimulation going on there that her body's not able to get into the relaxful state in order for her to be able to get a good night's sleep. So this test is very important. It also tells us at which time of the day we should give patients particular supplements. We may give this patient a supplement to help her cortisol level improve in the morning here, but then in the evening, in the afternoon, we would actually have her take something that would calm it down so that we can get her into this normal range here. Now, adrenal gland issues and blood sugar issues often go together. The typical classic pattern would be low blood sugar and low adrenal function, and high cortisol function and insulin resistance. Those are the classic patterns, and everybody follows those, but it's very common. So when we find adrenal problems, we'll also find blood sugar problems typically. When we find blood sugar problems, we'll typically find a adrenal problem occurring together. So if you have not had your adrenal gland function checked, it's very important that you do so, because what happens is when your adrenal gland is overactive, it makes too much cortisol. And what happens is you get this pattern where your thyroid gland is under converting. So What happens is that we talked about how your body makes T4, your thyroid gland makes T4, and then the body has to rely on a conversion mechanism to get it to the point where it's active T3, which will become bioactive, which actually does the metabolism inside the cell. So what happens when your cortisol is elevated, you will not convert T4 to T3. So T3 on a blood test, if you check free T3, is going to be low. And if it's low, that means that you're underconverting. So your thyroid, your adrenal gland needs to be checked. The normal range is 2.3 to 4.2, so we'll be on the low side of that. And you're going to get, because you're not converting it to the active form, is again low thyroid symptoms. Fatigue, hair falling out, can't lose weight, especially tired in the morning, cold hands, cold feet, classic low thyroid. So again, this is another very important aspect of helping you overcome your thyroid